So you think with all the Nintendo Switch 2 announcements, you know, we had the Direct, we had all these games shown off, you know, brand new games, Mario Kart World. What else did we have? You know, we had a bunch of stuff. Metroid Prime 4, Donkey Kong Bonanza, you know, not Twilight Princess, I wish. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild getting, you know, Switch 2 upgraded versions. And of course, you know, not Super Mario Party, Mario Party Jamboree. I mean, there's so much going on. You know, we had Treehouse Live today. The time I'm recording this is currently April 3rd, 6:30 p.m. when I'm recording this. We have another Treehouse Live tomorrow. You'd think there'd be so much hype, excitement, everybody'd be super excited, right? But unfortunately, all of that hype and all of the cool stuff that they are showing off, right? There's a lot of cool stuff Nintendo has been showing off, especially in today's Treehouse Live. I don't know if you guys got the chance to catch it or not. I posted some of my reactions here on the channel as well. I streamed it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But with all of that, it's getting overshadowed by one thing that just keeps going on and on and on, and that is the fact that a lot of people are upset. A lot of people are very upset, and that is at the price point. Now this is a deep conversation, and the reason I waited so long to talk about it in part is because, well, first of all, I was taking in, you know, just learning about the console and learning about all these games and stuff, and then, you know, I've just been kind of busy with that. But also part of it is just that it's a very complex conversation because there's so many factors in here. And the fact of the matter is we just don't have any clear communication coming directly from Nintendo, which really is unfortunate. And I think it's working against them, if anything. And it sucks to see that all this is getting overshadowed because there is a lot of hype to be had with all of this. Now, during the Treehouse Live, it's actually kind of insane. I did not expect this, but for the full 4 hours, the whole chat, not my chat, thankfully, you know, my chat was kind of dead, I'll be honest, but the whole chat for Treehouse Live was pretty much the same thing. It was just like, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. You know, you would have thought that would have fell off after, you know, a few minutes or something, but the entire 4 hours, it was crazy. You know, a couple trolls in there saying, raise the price, but yeah, it was pretty insane to see. And it's unfortunate because whenever something like this happens, where there's so much of a negative spin kind of on, you know, on announcements or releases for something, it usually is very hard to kind of bounce back from that. And I think there's a lot of factors going into this. There's some factors that I was already thinking myself. And there's also some factors that I heard, if you guys are familiar with Kit and Krista, they used to do Nintendo Minute at Nintendo. And, you know, they were actually part of like communications and stuff, if I recall correctly, as well. And so they got their own YouTube channel now. They've had that for like, I don't know, a couple of years, I guess now, year and a half, maybe. I can't remember how long it's been, which is really cool. And they were talking about that. And I watched their video a little bit, and so I'll mention a couple things that they mentioned as well, and I'll mention that it is coming from them when it is coming from them, but I would suggest just obviously watching their video as well. They have a really interesting angle. But one of the things that I was thinking they also mentioned is the fact that, for example, we used to have a guy like Reggie. Reggie was a great spokesperson. He used to be able to come out here and say, hey, you know, whatever, you know, just kind of get the reins on a situation and really kind of communicate. He was a great communicator. I mean, he is a great communicator. I say was because he doesn't work for Nintendo anymore, but which is unfortunate. But then Doug Bowser replaced him. And unfortunately, Doug Bowser's just not much of a spokesperson himself, from what it seems. We haven't really seen him a whole lot. Kit and Krista was actually mentioning that they believe it's been about like a year and a half, maybe, since we last seen, you know, Doug Bowser in an interview. So that's what's kind of working against Nintendo right now, is the fact that they don't have a lot of communication, you know, people, I guess. So they gotta sort of figure out how to kind of control this right now, because this is spinning out of control to the point where, again, all the cool stuff is getting overshadowed. And there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm over here getting hyped over stuff, and I feel like I'm on a desert island because I feel like everybody's so mad. And don't get me wrong, I'm not thrilled about the price, right? I'm not justifying the price. Let's talk about that a little bit. Again, controversial topic, I know, but so, okay, if you don't know, Nintendo came out, they announced the price for the Switch 2 in Japan in yen. If you do the conversion, it would be significantly cheaper in USD. I think it'd be like $340 USD or something. So it's like $100 cheaper than what it actually is. It's like $450 USD. And you know, there's multiple reasons for that. The yen is not good. The economy in Japan, I mean, the economy globally is garbage, but in Japan especially, it's just really not good. And excuse me, I think that's part of why maybe they're kind of doing that. I don't know. That's the thing. We need Nintendo to kind of, explain these things. I don't want to get into the whole political scheme of things, but the fact of the matter is there are tariffs that are being implemented on China and Taiwan, and that is going to significantly mess with the production cost of the Switch 2, because the Switch 2 is being produced basically for the most part in those countries. So that's a factor. And we kind of knew that was coming, and you might say like, well, yeah, well, that just kind of got implemented in the past couple of days. Yeah, maybe so, but I think maybe Nintendo was, they were expecting it, they were anticipating it. So maybe there's a part of that as well. There's another part that games are getting obviously really big, and the other thing is also a little bit of misinformation. So for example, I hate using that word, to be honest, because I think that word is abused nowadays. People call anything that they dislike misinformations. I don't like that word, but I think there is some of that genuinely happening here, or more like confused information, let's call it, because there's people that they just don't know what's kind of going on in this whole thing with the pricing, right? Because the pricing for one is all over the place. So you got Mario Kart World, which is being priced to $79.99 USD, but then you got Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is being priced at what is it, $69.99 USD, so 10 bucks cheaper. And then there were some reports suggesting that, the digital versions are 10 bucks cheaper. Actually, I think it was Nintendo Spain. If you go to the Nintendo Spain website, it actually has a physical version and a digital version. I don't know if it was Nintendo Spain. It was one of the official Nintendo websites, but they actually have it listed on there. Again, I think it was Spain, where it was like 10 bucks cheaper for the digital version. I don't know if that's just in that region, but yeah. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, people are getting confused about that as well. It's like, well, are the digital versions cheaper? Then if you actually look at the bundle for the Nintendo Switch 2 that comes with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, then you compare it to, how much just Mario Kart 8, so not Deluxe, I say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Kart World, and then how much that is separately if you were to buy the console and the game separately, even if the game was digital. I think you're saving even more if you get it as a bundle. So there's a lot of confusion around the pricing. And then reports, this is something I heard Kit and Krista say, reports are saying that basically there's a lot of media that are getting hands-on right now with the Nintendo Switch 2. And the reports are that everybody's being told not to ask about the pricing, not to talk about the pricing. That is just a talking point that they're being told not to ask like any Nintendo staff about. It's just not what they're talking about. So maybe this is the kind of thing that Nintendo was hoping, people would not, blow up out of proportion or blow up into what it's become, because they know it is pricey. And they actually said something a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, that I don't know if you guys remember. I think we covered it in a video, and they were saying basically like they were talking about the price. I think my video was probably called something about the Nintendo Switch 2 price or something, and it was that they were saying that they're going to try to price it at what consumers would expect that would be fair, but at the same time, again, I'm paraphrasing, at the same time, they have to also, it's going to be a little bit more because of the economic situation or whatever. Again, I'm paraphrasing. You just go watch that video to see the exact words, but the point being is, the pricing has been all over the place. It's been something that I guess maybe Nintendo was hoping like would not get blown up into all of this. Now, there is one point that, again, this is something Kit and Krista made that I think is a fair point to reiterate here, and that is the fact that there are big like cinematic AAA games, from, like PlayStation, like God of War and stuff, Uncharted, whatever, like these big cinematic games, Spider-Man, that they don't charge as much as Mario Kart World is charging. Now, I know Mario Kart World is a very ambitious game. If you've watched the Treehouse Live especially, it is a huge game, massive in scale, huge world that you can just free roam. I mean, there is so much in this game that it would make sense that they would want to charge more for it. I mean, again, value is subjective, because for one person that they don't care about those big cinematic experiences, because again, you get these big cinematic experiences for like 10-15 hours maybe of gameplay, depending on the game, maybe 20, and then that's it. where like Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart World, excuse me, I keep calling it 8. Mario Kart World is, completely different, but again, there's a lot of value in that. I don't think it's really completely fair to compare these games either, but I just think it's an interesting idea that if like Nintendo was going to do that, well then this might get other developers thinking, hey, can we do this too? And another thing that was brought up was the fact that people have been bringing up these old clippings of old flyers, right, from like the NES days and N64 days, and a lot of games were like $60, and people were like, yeah, see, they were $60, they weren't 80. Yeah, but like in 25 years, only a $20 jump. I mean, I think inflation is a lot more than a $20 jump, so it's kind of a good point at the same time that like, games were pretty pricey comparatively because wages were much lower. Yeah, wages have not really kind of increased as much as inflation has, but still back then wages compared to how much these games were costing was still, I don't know, it was still a pretty big chunk of money at $60. $60 today, it seems kind of relatively cheap, compared to like what it would have been back then. So that's also a good point. So all that to say, I want to ask you guys, let me know in the comment section below. I see a lot of mixed opinions. Some people say it's not the console that's too much, it's the games that are being too much. Like it's specifically Mario Kart World, I think, because Donkey Kong is priced at like what a normal game would be priced at, which is like $69. So I think it's mostly Mario Kart World taking that extra $10 leap that people are really freaking out about. Some people are saying it's not that, it's not the console, it's the games. Other people are saying it's everything. It's the console's too much money, the console this, the console, it's like, yes, but again, I talked about this in a previous video. If you want to check the details about that, NVIDIA came out, talked about, the technology in the Switch 2, ray tracing, and DLSS and, all this other stuff. And, like these things do cost money to make the consoles. And, assumingly Nintendo's probably still going to come out at a loss because usually with hardware, companies do come out at a loss, which just goes to put into perspective how much this really, would cost. Then again, like, I don't know for sure because Nintendo hasn't really said anything. So, the other thing I'll mention that I also heard from Kit and Krista, again, I would highly recommend you guys go check out their video, is that this is the kind of thing that we're not going to get like a press release like this or anything like that, because there's kind of like chains of people to go through to kind of, get the approval. You have to get approval through multiple people and then yada yada. Like I'm just paraphrasing, and so this might take a couple days, few days, and this might also be something that they explain more in the Mario Kart World Direct, which is happening on the 17th of this month of April. But that's something that again, Krista mentioned that I agree with, is they should be mentioning something a little bit earlier. Why is the price point this? What is really the full scope of this game? Because I think that's another thing. There's a lot we don't know about this game either. I mean, does it matter? To some people, it wouldn't matter how much we know about the game anyway. So I think people are also getting a little bit unreasonable in other areas. Because, for example, people are getting so angry at some of the pricing that with a game like, what is it called? Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. A lot of people are like, oh, that should have been free. PlayStation with Astro's Playroom, it was free, blah, blah. Yes, but first of all, PlayStation could have charged for Astro's Playroom. They decided to make it a free thing, but they're kind of like, they're taking a hit at cost for the production of that. And also from what I've seen in the Treehouse, the Welcome Tour thing, it seems like it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And the other thing is that it's not that expensive. It's like $5 or $5 or $6, right? And you get all these mini games. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's like quizzes and mini games to teach you how to use, all about all the different features and stuff. And they're pretty cool, like arcadey, sort of like dumbed down, Mario Party mini game style kind of games from what I've seen. They look fun and entertaining to me. And to me, for like $5-6, I'm like, okay, whatever. That's like, sure, man, people worked hard on this and there seems to be a lot that went into this. I don't mind. But a lot of people are like, oh no, that's $6 too much. And so and then the other thing is everybody's all over the place because everybody has a different opinion. So I don't know. There's a lot going on behind this. I wanted to talk about this in this video because I think there's a lot of controversy behind this. I think Nintendo needs to come out. They like, I really hope they come out sooner than later and say like, listen, and they just kind of clarify things. I do not think they are going to drop the price like everybody's saying, drop the price. Like, It's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. It might happen down the line, but I don't think they're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, sorry guys, it was too much money. Let's go ahead and change the price. At least not for the console. Could they potentially tweak, the pricing on Mario Kart World? Probably not either. Because again, you gotta, I just don't see that happening. Not right away. They might do it like a couple months after. They're not gonna do it at release. I don't know. They probably won't do it a couple months after. It's probably gonna be a year. I don't know. Again, I don't work for Nintendo. I don't know. I'm just speculating. We don't know what's going to happen, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all this. What do you make out of all of it? Is it too much? Are you still going to get it day one? I'm sure a lot of you guys are. Let's be honest. A lot of the people that are like yelling, they're still going to get it day one. But realistically, for people here, like, are you going to get it day one? And if we're going to have a discussion about this, please keep it reasonable and civil in the chat. And let's have a civil discussion at least, and whatever. But again, I hope that Nintendo can like somehow communicate things better, and I hope things can kind of come around, because there's a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of cool stuff to get excited about, and it's a shame that all that's getting kind of overshadowed by all of this. So I don't know what the future holds. Yeah, I will say, personally speaking, I think that that Mario Kart World should have just been whatever the normal price. What is it, $70 USD? I'm Canadian, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm always trying to convert things in my head. $70 USD. I think that probably would have been a safer bet. And again, I think there's a lot of confusion around how everything works. There's also confusion around like this whole thing, like game key cards. I talked about that in my video and everything you need to know about Nintendo Switch 2. People think like that means like all the games are basically, they don't actually have the game on it. That's not the case. That's like probably super rare. Actually, it's not going to be for, and you're going to see like a little thing on the box art. You don't see that on the box art for any of the Nintendo first party stuff, so it's not on those. It's more like on when Nintendo Switch had, where it's like there was downloadable games, where it's like you'd get a physical thing, but then it was just like download the game instead kind of thing, except now they're putting it like on a cartridge, I guess. It's kind of like that. That's basically all it's replacing. It's probably going to be for really, really big games that just don't fit on a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge. That aside though, it is worth noting that Cyberpunk 2077, it's going to be on a 64 gig Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge. So it's actually something that, even in that case, they're not doing it with that. So I don't know which games are going to end up doing that, but it seems like for the most part, we're safe. And like, I think the big first party games, are going to be free from that. Obviously Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong, Bonanza, whatever else. I don't see Nintendo doing this, and Nintendo knows like people like also like to collect games. So I don't see that happening. But we'll have to see how that plays out. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've ranted way too long. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I don't know, man. It's a complicated situation that has a lot of variables to it. And I just think Nintendo they need to address it and communicate something to some extent, because people are running wild with this one. But I do think there's probably a good reason. A lot of people are like, oh, Nintendo's greedy. I don't think that's it. Nintendo has never been that kind of company. You want to talk about greedy? I've seen greedy companies, man. Let's look at like Activision for the past 8 years, for example. They've only started to kind of like sort of maybe slightly, and no, they haven't really changed lately. Let's be honest, they haven't really changed too much, sadly. But monetization through your eardrums, like charge this, charge that, it's been wild. Nintendo has never been like that. They've been actually pretty good with their content and pricing for their content. They launch games that are full games, and then if they launch DLC, it's like actually bonus stuff for a fair price. It's not like overpriced. So Nintendo's been really good about that. So I don't think it's fair to jump that far to say, hey, Nintendo's being greedy. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think there's legitimate reasons behind all this that we just are not aware of. And that's why Nintendo needs to come out and communicate something. But let me know your thoughts. That's my way longer rant than I anticipated for it to be. If you're new to the channel, we do cover everything Nintendo. If you're interested in Nintendo content, you're in the right place. Whether you're excited or not. I mean, you know, whatever, man. Listen, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I'm excited about the Switch 2. I'm not excited about the price. The price is steep, but you know, I'm not going to throw a riot about it because I'm assuming that there's, like I said, understandable reasons behind this. That said, I would still like to see Mario Kart World $10 cheaper and not the $10 more expensive than they're charging, despite the fact that it looks like an extremely ambitious game. But again, hopefully Nintendo comes out and says something soon. If they do, I'll let you guys know. And until then, game on. Thanks for watching.